World War II officially ended on June 28, 1919, with the signing of the Treaty of Versailles. However, the actual fighting between the Allies and Germany ended 7 months earlier. An armistice went into effect on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month in 1918. The event became known as Armistice Day, officially becoming a United States holiday in 1926 and a national holiday 12 years later. And on June 1st in 1954, the name was changed to Veterans Day. Keeping with tradition, the community gathered in West Bridgewater this year for the annual Tri-Town Parade and ceremony. Patriotism was thriving as families waved flags, officers saluted, and kids showed their support by wearing camouflage or the colors of this great nation.
On behalf of the Board of Selectmen and the newly elected Town Council, it's my pleasure as the Town Manager to welcome you all today to this solemn and special day to honor our veterans. I do bring you greetings from the Dean of the House, Representative Dave Flynn, who's away, and from the man to whom he's passed the torch, Representative-elect Angelo D'Amelia, who's in Raynham today celebrating the dedication of a building for a fallen soldier, Jared Monte. I'd also like to recognize several councilors-elect who are joining us here today. To my left, councilors-elect Pete Colombotos, Christy Colon, Tim Fitzgibbons, and also we did see along the parade route Scott Pitta and Peter Reardon, and we welcome them as representatives of Bridgewater's new form of government. And as it relates to veterans, you know, earlier this week the town celebrated its last ever town meeting, in many ways officially passing the torch and changing the form of government, one that had been in place for 354 years, to a new government that the people themselves chose. And there were no tanks rolling in the streets. There were no shots fired. There was no blood shed during this transition. That peaceful transition of government was due to the work of veterans here in our Commonwealth more than 230 years ago, and for the work they do every day to keep us safe and keep us peaceable. Bridgewater is a community that cherishes its veterans. In fact, the new seat of the town government, the building in which the town council will deliberate on the important matters before the town, was constructed more than 100 years ago as a monument to Bridgewater residents who fought in the Civil War. So I bring to you today a renewed and continued commitment to honor those who have served, to honor those who serve, and indeed, to honor those who will serve, who will answer that call in the future to keep future generations safe in the beautiful town of Bridgewater. So again, on behalf of the selectmen and the new council, I welcome you. I thank our veterans that are here today, and I wish you all Godspeed.
And we just could never, ever say thank you enough to the veterans that do so much for us. I've worked 11 years for my employer at U.S. Airways, and I've never been more proud of my company than a few weeks ago when U.S. Airways flew the 100th honor flight, which brings World War II veterans to Washington, D.C. to see the monument. And it's probably the most touching moment you'll ever see when an entire airport stops. People are missing flights, and they don't care for the first time. And they stand at honor as these men and women come off these airplanes, hundreds at a time, to come and see the World War Veteran Memorial that was built in their honor. And I tell you, it was very touching. There's dancing in the airport, and it's just a great, great event. And we celebrate today in much the same way. And again, on behalf of West Bridgewater and its residents, we thank the veterans and we thank you all for coming here today.
On May 1st of this year, an Army veteran by the name of Mike Ehert ran across the country, placing a small U.S. flag with yellow ribbons, honoring a soldier killed in Iraq at each mile. He began his 4,424-mile run in Astoria, Oregon, and completed his journey on the shores of the Atlantic Ocean in Rockland, Maine, where he placed his final flag on October 15th. This was how Mike chose to honor and pay tribute to his countrymen and women who committed their lives to our freedom and safety. Today, these three towns pay their own special tribute to the brave men and women that have served or still serve our country. As we recognize our veterans, I hope each of us can embrace the camaraderie that compelled Mike to run across the country for 6 months and realize that our troops have sacrificed to preserve our liberty and a way of life in America. As many of us know, the jobs of our soldiers is not an easy one. It demands rigid training, steadfast sense of duty, and firm resolve. They embody great character and accomplishment, extraordinary things. They carry the burden and responsibility of protecting and defending us, and they have sacrificed something so we could enjoy the freedom we have today. It is easy to be swept up in the routine frustrations of our own life. It is easy to forget on the other side of the world a battle continues and the American soldiers are fighting a dangerous enemy. But for today, especially as we approach this season of Thanksgiving, let us take time to remember our soldiers who served our country with great pride, distinction, and thank them for their unwavering courage, perseverance, and heroism.
And we thank all our soldiers, all the veterans that we had. I am one. We lost a lot of people protecting this country, and I think we should all give thanks to the veterans for protecting us and keeping the country as we know it.
You know, some of the tributes that we pay to veterans, quite candidly, during my lifetime, were somewhat abstract. My father, who turned 91 the other day, was a veteran of World War II, but to me, that always seemed such a distant memory and such a, long time ago. And increasingly, the service that veterans, that men and women in our military are providing is hitting home for all of us as we now are fighting in 2 wars. Mary and I together have 5 children. Our oldest, Jake, we're very proud of him. He studied very hard and got into Harvard, and he's a senior. And just a couple of weeks ago, he and I had a conversation. Basically, Jake, what are you going to do with the rest of your life? And he stunned us and told us that upon graduation, his intent is to join the Marines. And, for this generation, he was 12 years old in 7th grade when the horrific events of September 11th left an indelible impression on all of us, but certainly as much as any on these young boys and girls who have grown up to serve us now in Afghanistan and Iraq. President Kennedy said that it's wonderful that we pay tribute through words to our veterans, but it's more important that we pay tribute to our veterans through our actions. Here in Massachusetts, we do in fact have the most generous veterans benefits in the nation. But we also read in this morning's paper, if you get a chance to take a look at the Herald and the op-ed piece about so many of these men and women returning after often multiple tours of duty in hostile environments with serious, not just physical, but mental ailments. Post-traumatic stress syndrome, a very real problem that's affecting hundreds and hundreds of thousands of our fellow Americans. I think that we, in addition to the tribute that we pay today on Veterans Day, in addition to our words as elected officials, as nation, as neighbors, have to, through our actions, also pay tribute, many of whom of these men and women are suffering and continue to suffer because of the actions that they take on our behalf. So it's a rather somber note to leave you with, but that's my wish, not just for my own son, but for all of the boys and girls, men and women who are serving us, that we remember them not just today, but the other 364 days of each and every year.
In the tradition of the military, since World War I, this particular prayer has been passed down from one generation of soldier to another. In the tradition, this prayer was found next to the body of a dead soldier. Lord God, I have never spoken to you, but now I want to say, how do you do? You see, God, they told me you didn't exist, and like a fool, I believed all this. Last night, from a shell hole, I saw your sky. I figured right then they had told me a lie. Had I taken time to see the things you made, I'd known they were not calling a spade a spade. I wonder, God, if you take my hand, somehow I feel that you'll understand. Funny, I had to come to this hellish place before I had time to see your face. Well, I guess there isn't much more to say, but I'm sure glad, God, I met you today. I guess 0 hour will soon be here, but I'm not afraid, since I know you're near. The signal. Well, God, I'll have to go. I like you lots. I want you to know. Look now, this will be a horrible fight. Who knows, I may come to your house tonight. Though I wasn't friendly to you before, I wonder, God, if you'll wait at your door. Look, I'm crying. I'm shedding tears. I have to go now, God. Goodbye. Strange, now since I have met you, I'm not afraid to die.